Mr. Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the eloquent defense of life offered by many of my Republican colleagues this morning. I add my voice to theirs in recognizing the sanctity of all life. Having grown up in the Jim Crow South of segregation and KKK, I'm familiar with the true racism, intolerance, and hate, all due to the color of my skin. I see the same thing today in 2022 as the hard left, the so-called party of tolerance, who bang the drum of racism, inequality, inequity, do not practice what they preach. The leaked opinion and reversal of Roe versus Wade unleashed carefully planned attacks on pro-life organizations, violent protests, an assassination attempt at the home of Supreme Court Justice and his family, and racially charged firestone against Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. That's nothing new for Justice Thomas, who has been the target of the elitist left for 40 years. Instead of celebrating the second Black American in our nation's history, highest court, they declared open season with vicious and racist attacks. This is because he's an articulate, confident Black American who loves the American tenets of God, country, and family. It's because he's a Black man who dares to think differently than they would love for him to think. I'd like to share some comments of their comments with this committee. Samuel L. Jackson called Justice Thomas Uncle Clarence and tweeted that a ban on interracial marriage is next. Representative Benny Thompson called Justice Thomas Uncle Tom, citing his support for voter ID and opposition to affirmative action. He stated that Justice Thomas doesn't like Black people. He doesn't like being Black. I'm going to take a second and repeat that line. Justice Thomas doesn't like Black people. He doesn't like being Black. Chicago Mayor Lightfoot attacked Justice Thomas in a profane rant, suggesting the decision would lead to overturning gay marriage. Hillary Clinton called Justice Thomas an angry person of grievance. It's not just Justice Thomas they attacked. CNN suggested that Congresswoman Myra Flores wasn't the real deal. They believe, and I quote, she holds views outside Latino mainstream. Myra, too, dares to think differently than what the elitist left demands. A guest on MSNBC, host Joy Reid, called Virginia Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears a black mouth of white supremacy. Twitter allowed Uncle Tim to trend for hours after Senator Tim Scott's State of the Union rebuttal before taking action. A white newspaper cartoonist for the Utah State Salt Lake City Tribune portrayed me as a white Klansman, so typical of the condescending racism. If these same attacks were aimed at Barack Obama, it would be called out by this committee and the media for exactly what it is, pure racism. This chairman would probably hold a hearing on it. I'd like to tender some advice for those on the left who attempt to divide us with their hateful rhetoric. First, I recommend a good book that I read a couple decades ago called How to Win Friends and Influence People. The hard left is failing big time in this area. The second, I suggest you've totally missed the basic one-on-one of the American spirit. We don't respond well to intimidation and bullies and cowards. This pattern of intolerance is disgusting, unjustified, un-American. Most importantly, it shows how far we've come from MLK's dream, where our children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the character of their content. Instead of working to delegitimize our institutions, default into fear-mongering tactics and basic arguments that the Supreme Court wants to take away our rights, we should be honest with the American people. Dishonesty is not appreciated by the American people, and you'll see that in November of this year. Check it out. Roe versus Wade cost us 23 million innocent lives. Like the pro-slavery Democrat Dred Scott decision in 1857, it was a flawed decision. Overcoming Roe didn't outlaw abortion or take away the constitutional right of Americans. It put the decision in the state hands, in the hands of we the people where it belongs. To the angry left, it's time to settle down, take off your masks and show your cowardly faces, put down your stones and firearms, and through civil debate, convince us that you're right. My prediction is you have no clue. In the meanwhile, a black constitutionalist on the Supreme Court who stands with that decision should be revered, not ridiculed. Last thought, Justice Thomas is old school. I promise you will not be intimidated. Thank you, and I'll yield back.